All right, welcome Senior Home Business family. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is Wednesday, so it must be Brittney, the YouTube live show with senior placement and all that good stuff. So we're so glad you're here to join us today, the audience that's out there. And what we're going to talk about, if you didn't see the thumbnail, which you probably did, because if you wouldn't be here unless you clicked it. So, but the truth about assisted living. And there's so much information out there about assisted living, and a lot of it's really, really good, and some of it could be questionable. We're going to talk about some of those things today. You might not be in a place right now you're even thinking about assisted living. And so if Brittney, didn't work in assisted living community and become a senior placement agent for the amount of years I've been doing it, I wouldn't be thinking about it either, quite honestly. When I got hired on assisted living community years ago, I didn't have a clue about this industry. I mean, I knew elderly need to be taken care of. I knew some basic humanity kind of stuff that's out there that we need to take care of our own, but I just didn't know how the whole thing worked. And we're going to go through about that today. So hopefully it's helpful for you guys today to receive information that we're going to give you. And so anyway, if you'll know more about what we do, there's a bunch of links you can click down below. Everything down from the TSL CRM to the referral radar to the Senior Placement Institute, and schedule a call, all that good stuff. But let's get into it. Brittney's. Is there two Brittney's here? Did I put an S on your name? Is that what I actually did? See, I think Brittney works so hard that I think it's two of Brittney's out there, maybe three of Brittney's out there. She's all over the place working hard. So let's get into the first one. Number one, families wait until crisis mode. And this is so prevalent today. I don't know about you, Brittney, but with me in our business, we handle and have the privilege of working with a number of families, and oftentimes it's crisis mode. A lot of my leads come from the SNFs, post-acute, things like that, and these people need to be discharged in a couple of days. Sometimes it's a week. It could be a week and a half, 2 weeks, but usually it's within that couple of days to a week and a half time frame. And it's so disheartening for families. And again, I put myself in their shoes. If I was not in the industry, didn't know anything about the business, I'd be like, oh my gosh, dad fell, went to the hospital, and they said skilled nursing, and what do we do now? And always got to go to assisted living. And I wouldn't have a clue. And I would just be probably just Googling or chat GPT in it, right? Or something like that. Just get me some information about this. But I think underneath this, Brittney, most families don't plan ahead. What do you think about that?
Agreed. Yeah. To your point, a lot of our leads do come in crisis mode. They're waiting for the last minute. Like anything, this is probably something most families don't want to think about. I get the comment all the time, I never thought I would put my loved one in a home. That's the common thing I hear. Or we promised mom or dad or whoever that we would never put them in a nursing home is usually what I hear, or a home. So I just don't think families, it's not in the forefront of their mind until something happens. And a lot of times that crisis mode could be something where they've been hanging on by a thread, living at home, and it's just that one fall, that one flu, whatever that looks like, that one hospital stay that sets kind of over the edge where they're no longer able to return home.
Yeah, I mean, assisted living searches begin oftentimes after a fall hospitalization. This is not an actual picture of one of my residents. It's actually something I just pulled up because I don't want to put residents on screen unless they give me permission. But this is really where it happens. I don't know why the young lady's smiling, but but she's smiling maybe because the doctor's there to help her. But this is really what happens. Happened to my dad. And unfortunately, he didn't go to assisted living, but he fell. He went to the hospital and ended up going to skilled nursing a couple of different times. But assisted living searches often begin after fall or hospitalization. 95% of the residents that we have the joy of helping, most of them have fallen. And that's usually where all this stuff occurs, right? I mean, family suddenly needs placement within days. And you have to be, if you're looking to be in this business or you are in this business, you better have systems in place to be able to help families to be placed within days. Brittney, we were talking about off air. I was talking to someone just the other day, and the guy was like, man, this business can't be that hard. It's all right, man. I'm just going to be a qualified lead, and I'm just going to get them, to wherever has an empty bed. And I said, you're really just going to put somewhere where just have an empty bed. I don't want to utilize that person as a senior placement agent if they're just going to identify an empty bed, because we're going to learn today there's so many differences about these senior living communities that are out there, right? But, you get down to it, emotions do drive decisions sometimes. And, you get down to stress, guilt, fear, all that's going to cloud their judgment, right? Brittney, do you ever encounter that? Which I know is kind of a rhetorical question. You do encounter this, but I mean, how much stress and guilt and fear that you kind of see is prevalent when you're talking to families about placement?
A lot. It comes through a lot. Again, like I had mentioned, when they say I would never do this to my loved ones, of course, when, especially in a crisis mode, they're having to make decisions so fast. So a lot of stress is coming into play. Even if they can plan, this all comes up, stress, guilt, and of course, the fear of the unknown. A lot of them have no idea how to go through this process. Their loved one fell, they're in the hospital, and they're left with this huge task of what's next steps. They don't even know where to start in step one. So majority of our conversations that I have with families, there's tears involved, there's stress involved, there's anger involved, so many emotions that come out when I'm working with families all the way through.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, families do choose the first available community, not just the best one. And I don't fault them again, because they don't know the differences. And again, going back, if I was not in the industry, I would think all these senior living communities are pretty much the same, right? They all provide care, they all provide food, they all provide somewhere to sleep, maybe some activities. There might be a little bit of differences, but for the most part, they should be all in the same, and they're not the same. There's different levels of care and activities and, frequency of care. There's all kinds of different things that go on. But if the families would spend some time in preparation, this would be a game changer. And it's like maybe life insurance, auto insurance, just different things that are out there that you can prepare ahead of time before catastrophe hits, before a trying situation happens. You need to prepare. And so one way they can prepare, Brittney, I think, is tour communities early, right? I think that would be important. If mom or dad is getting to the place where you're even starting to have conversations or thoughts about senior living, go tour a couple communities, right? Now, why you don't want to do that probably is why I didn't want to go to the auto dealerships back in the day looking for a car, because you're always afraid of what? The salesman coming out and trying to sell you and giving you all the benefits of the car and why you should buy now and sales pressure and all that. So you might get a little bit of that. But I think what you need to do is go and have a placement advisor in place. Look at it this way. So if you have these conversations and discussions about assisted living or senior living for your mom or dad or your grandma or grandpa, reach out to someone like Brittney or someone that's a reputable senior placement advisor and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you, and maybe let them schedule some tours for you, right? And then what you'll do is you'll have a better understanding of the pricing and the care levels before you go into the community and waste your time. What do you think, Brittney?
Yeah, I agree. I think a big thing is too, like, we can talk about communities all day long, but getting in front of a community, seeing it, feeling it, we always say smelling it, look, everything, all the senses, does give families a really good idea. And having access to somebody like a placement agent gives you that protection, an advocate going through the process. So you're not getting sold to, you're not getting calls constantly, you're having that connection or that protection. Then also you have an idea of pricing, like you said, because when these crisis moments happen, you're going from zero to now a full education of assisted living, maybe in 24 hours. So you're going from the care aspect to the pricing aspect. Most families look at us and you can hear the tone in their voice. When they hear the pricing of assisted living, they almost fall out of their chair. So
yeah, definitely
have that education. Just simply having that education, if it's a couple communities, even if it's just pricing information and information about them, it really will make a difference if that crisis situation comes up.
Yeah. And number two is just not all assisted living communities are the same. They're just not. Here's a picture. This is an actual picture of the community I used to work for. And this is an event, someone playing the keyboard. Some residents are all there, obviously, listening to some music, those kind of things. And, it would appear in this picture that this happened all the time. I can tell you about working there, and I'm not going to tell you which community it is, but working there, this did not happen all the time. It was rare occasions. And what happened was this kind of thing would typically happen when tours were scheduled. Because when people would walk in the building, this was actually the front part of the building. So you kind of think walk in. So you see the gentleman, I actually know that guy, the guy with the black hat. You're walking in the door, you would see the back of him and all this going on. So you would walk in this building and there's music going on. And then over here is kind of a little bit of wine tasting going on, because that was kind of the buffet area and all that stuff. And then over there was another room you can't see to the left, and that was like the game area. All this stuff would be going on, but they vary differently, and you need to understand that quality varies dramatically in these communities. They're just not the same, and so you're going to have to ask some questions that we're going to give you at the end of this video that you can actually pinpoint, is this the right community for my mom or dad, right? I mean, because some communities feel very luxurious, right? They look like resorts. This community I used to work for looked like a resort. Actually, I live in the Central California area, but this building actually looks like it should be on the coast. It's very coastal. It's beautiful. And, they've improved a lot over the years. But a lot of times with senior living communities, they're cyclical. They go up and down, up and down. The care is real great one moment and it's not so great the next. And a lot of that's just predicated on, the caregivers they have, the training that's given, the hiring process, the management group, all that. But others feel more clinical and outdated. I mean, Brittney, do you ever walk into communities that kind of feel a little more clinical? Like you saw the picture there of this picture here. This is not a clinical type look whatsoever. And so you would have a perception of this community more so than maybe another one that you walk in that's more clinical in nature, and or it's been around for a long time, or at least the building has, and it's very outdated.
Yeah, we have plenty like that. We call them like homey. That's kind of our answer for the outdated ones. So we do. And some of them have the best care. Some families would turn their eye immediately to those. That's why having a senior placement agent, and as a senior placement agent, you have to dig beyond the chandeliers. We always say that some of our luxury resort communities have the worst care in the area, and some of the outdated clinical fields have the best. So they really do differ. And it's not always about looks. We always say, look past the cruise ship. But it's important, again, as an agent to know like what your families are looking for, of course, care-wise, and the feeling they want for their loved ones as well.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things you need to look for is like staff retention, resident happiness, quality of care, right? And these are three things you can look for, but it's like, okay, well, Matt, how do I extract that information from the community? How do I know how long the caregivers have been there? How do I know the quality of care and the resident happiness? Now, one point is go get yourself a reputable senior placement advisor, right? They're going to know these different things. We know certain things like, Brittney, I was in a skilled nursing facility not long ago, and this lady was out in the foyer. I may have shared this with you or someone else. I've shared this story 3 or 4 times. So if I shared this on this channel, I apologize, but it's such an impactful story of this lady in her Christmas pajamas. And she was just all giddy and excited about the care. And this was at a skilled nursing facility, not a senior living community. And that particular information, so I was asking her why she was so excited to be there. And she told me the level of care. And she didn't say level of care. She said this. She goes, the staff is so attentive. Whenever I have needs, they are here with me. And they always have a smile on their face. That's what she told me. And I was like, wow. So I could share that with someone else. I'm telling you, any senior placement advisor out there that's worth their salt, they're in the business, they know their market, they're going to know certain things like this. And so it's not just the eyeball test and not just a smell test. And that's all important. And that's why you got to tour these communities so you can actually see certain things. And unfortunately, you might smell certain things. You might like that or not like it. You might like the food, the way it's cooked. You might like whatever. I don't know. But you need to do that kind of thing. So actually touring properly matters. And I think properly matters is just getting with you, Brittney, or another senior placement advisor out there and allow them to tour with you. They're going to have the questions that need to be asked. They're going to be there to support you. You might freeze up depending on your personality type that's out there you're touring. You might be an extrovert. You might be an outgoing individual, and that's fine. That's great. And you're going to be able to connect with people and kind of read through some stuff. You might be more of an introvert, which is great. You have some questions, but you might not want to, ask certain things. Whatever your personality type is, but you got to tour these places properly, meaning you got to know before mom or dad is ready to get in. Now, again, we're not all afforded that opportunity if tragedy strikes and a loved one falls and goes to the hospital, like we talked about earlier. You're not afforded the opportunity to spend months in preparation. But if you're out there and you're listening and your mom or dad is of an age, and again, you're having that conversation or those thoughts, plan accordingly. I would begin to research a reputable senior placement advisor. I'll begin to ask them questions. I'll begin to let them know, like you called me and my staff and talked to Crystal and whoever, you just let us know, hey, you know what? Mom's not ready right now. She's living in her home. She's living by herself. I just been a little bit concerned, and these are some of my concerns. And we're thinking maybe down the road, 6 months, 12 months. It could be sooner, but probably down the road. I just want to get the ball rolling with you, so that way when time happens and it's ready, then we're not struggling and for information, right? And you would think that if you just, the hospital would give you information, and they do. And the skilled nursing information facilities, they'll give you information, and they do. Unfortunately, and I've encountered this in my own area. Now, most of them are all great people. Again, most of them. But there's a couple of them, they're getting money under the table. And so they're only going to give you 3 communities or 2 communities that they're going to get money under the table for. So you're going to think, oh, it's the social worker that's giving me information, so this must be the best community possible that's out there for my loved one. And it may not be. It might just be that she's getting money for it, right? Now, you might say the same thing about senior placement agents. You're like, well, man, they only give me 2 or 3. Well, you know what? Then ask that individual, say, you know what? Pull up on the screen and show me all the communities, and let's go through information and make sure this is a perfect fit for mom or dad. That's where TSL comes in. That's where Tour Senior Living, you can extract all the information from all the communities. And if you do this ahead of time, you can meet with somebody like Brittney, and she can walk you through each community with no pressure about discharging next week, right? I mean, I know that's the optimal, perfect world, and we don't all live in it. And again, I feel, I feel for people out there because they don't understand the business. Like, again, I wouldn't have understood the business if I didn't get into it. But you've got to understand staff interaction with residents as well. These are 3 things that we'll give you. And this is something that you can kind of see during the tour. You can tell and not only how the staff interacts with the residents, look to see how the residents interact with the staff. Like there's a care home owner in my area. She owns 5 homes. And every time we walk into a home, and I haven't done this in several months with her now, but we were doing that. She'd walk in, each resident would call her by name. You could tell that she cared for them and that they were so appreciative of her doing what she's doing. She was the one that would get her phone in each week. And if you're a care home out there, this is a perfect tip for you guys. Care home owners, listen to this. If you have family members that can't come by that often because of, life happens, they live too far away, family obligations or whatever, each week she does a little short video of their particular dad, their dad playing a game, eating something, hanging out, watching TV, and sending it to them. Every week she does that. That is amazing. I share that with all care home owners. You should do that with each of your residents. Now, not to put them all online. I'm talking about just to the family. And have maybe a group thread that maybe some of the family members is out of town. They can't even see dad. But that little video, and it just, I'm telling you, it's little things like that. But Brittney, staff interaction with residents, any insight to what you've seen when it comes to that?
But good and bad. Yeah, I've had good experiences. I always say it's even from the front desk too, all the way to the caregivers. A lot of times the front desk is the first impression of the community. And I know in my experience working in the communities, the front desk was like a huge part of their life. They would come talk to them. They would call if their TV wasn't working or they needed help with their pendant or whatever. The front desk is a very important part of a community. So I always say, I tell the families that I work with, look how the whole interaction is from the time we walk in all the way throughout. So yes. I always say hi to caregivers, say hi. You be the first one to say hi. If they don't, see how they respond, see how they hold themselves, see how are they smiling? Are they happy? Is the front desk happy? Do you see things like executive directors, director of nursing out on the floor? If you do, are they friendly? So I look at it from the second we walk in. I have some communities that have doormen, literally like a whole valet service.
Nice.
Even then,
that's the kind of community I want to go to. Let's go. Yeah, got right? Some valet parking.
Yep.
Pull up.
Yeah, you're like the first class. So I always say from that, it's every interaction, because every single one of those people in that building will have an interaction with your loved one at some point, all the way from front desk to dining, housekeeping. So look at everything. Look at the dining staff. How are they talking to the residents? Are they being respectful when they're taking their order? Are they giving them independence? I just think all of them will be a part of their lives every single day, in and out to some degree. So that's what I just tell the families, look at every single aspect. what is nice about having a placement agent with you is we can point things out when they're so overwhelmed, or even better, we can point things out in the parking lot or on the call afterwards, or whenever we touch base after the tours. So we are like a listening ear and observing the entire time to give them feedback.
Yeah, definitely. And let's go to this number 3, Brittany. Staffing is the hidden factor, right? I mean, staffing ratios impact care by no means. I mean, it just happens all the time. And we need to understand that these communities, the best buildings, mean nothing without great staff. There's some tremendous caregivers that are out there. And I would venture to say the caregivers are the heart of the community. And that is hard to do. I'm telling you, if I own a senior living community, I tell this to my care home owners quite a bit. It's like, that's got to be the toughest job, to be able to hire good quality caregivers, because if you don't have that, your reputation of a care home and or a large community is just going to go south. It just is, because, but a great caregiver or great caregivers that walking around with a smile on their face, that really enjoy what they're doing, they have a genuine love for seniors, that goes without saying. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we've got to understand that compassionate staff creates a family environment. And that's really what we want for our loved ones, right? We want them to be in a family environment. We don't want them just to be somewhere and just to be taken care of. Now, you can take care of somebody. You can take care of somebody. You guys don't understand this, like in a relationship. All right. So I've been married a number of years. Brittany, you've been married a number of years. And say, just put it in the marriage context, each one is taking care of each other, but they're not really together. Like they're fulfilling their responsibilities, whatever responsibilities are, and working and doing some things around the house, but never enjoying one another and having a laugh, watching a movie or whatever. Same with caregivers. Some of the best caregivers out there, obviously they know what they're doing, but they also spend time with the resident, and they pick up their tendencies. They pick up the things they like to do. And, they're able to observe things. I mean, I just saw that a few weeks ago, and I know the city I was in training some students, and this particular owner of the care home walks in, and she sees somebody getting ready to get up, and excuse me, and she walks over there to him, and she begins to understand exactly what he wants. And I was observing, like, okay, what does he want? He's just trying to stand up. And she knew this guy wanted to go down the hall, walk all around the room, and just to come back. And so she immediately, by him doing that, she knew this guy wanted some exercise. So she said, let's go. Let's get you up. Let's get you back. Make sure your feet are on the floor, because his feet were all kind of all over the place. Get your feet on the floor, and let's get you up, and let's walk. Let's go for our walk today. Let's go. And it sounded like he did that already like 3 times that morning, but she knew what was going on. So it's just, families, because they don't know what they don't know, rarely ask the right questions. And they probably get overwhelmed with all the options that are out there. And so they just begin to like, okay, I just want to look at 3, and let me go with looking at 3, and I'll pick and choose from 3. I used to do that kind of thing before TSL, and it's okay to do it if you have a senior placement advisor who knows the market and knows your mom or dad's ADLs, their behaviors, know their tendencies, their preferences, and put it all together in a package deal and say, okay, these are the 3 that best fit mom or dad's needs. Totally agree with that. But if you're going this alone or dealing with a senior placement advisor who doesn't really know their market, you better know more than just 2 or 3, because you might be led down a road you want to go, right? I don't know. It's just, what do you think about that, Brittany?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, our job as senior placement agents is to narrow it down, like you said, based on ADLs, all the stuff that we know about the communities, we know the staffing ratios and all that. But if you didn't have that, I would say getting a lot of information as much as possible that you could without completely overwhelming yourself would be ideal. I know we talked off camera, a big thing that families that we are seeing in the industry that they're not, able to understand, and we get a lot of frantic phone calls, is just because communities say assisted living or memory care does not mean they all do the same level of care. They could all have the same license. They could all say assisted living in different states, 1 and 2, A and B, whatever their license is. But it does come down to that corporation, that director of nursing, whatever that looks like, that's staffing, what their staffing ratios are at the time, if they can accept somebody's loved one. So what we're finding is people are going on their own, getting their heart set on one community out of 3. And at the end of the day, their loved one cannot go there. And that is due to lack of education, not asking the right questions, getting too far in the process, waiting too long, waiting for crisis mode to where their loved one needs way more care than they can provide. So I totally agree. I think if families do go on this on their own, there's a lot of important questions to ask, and you have to do a lot of research, because if you put all your eggs in one basket without a senior placement agent that knows their market, you could be wasting hours of your time and it not be the right fit.
Absolutely. Let me give you 3 questions. And these are things that you might not even begin to understand or know by yourself, but you can actually get it from a senior placement advisor. How many caregivers per shift? That's huge. During the daytime, when you tour, most people tour during the day, right? I don't know anybody that's toured 2 a.m. I don't know anybody that's going there at midnight and say, hey, let me check out this community. You won't be able to get in the community at that time, number one. But even if you schedule the appointment, they won't take it because no staff is there in terms of marketing directors, executive director, but they have caregivers. They have night staff. But how many caregivers per shift? And how many caregivers are actually there during the evening? I mean, I got some horror stories I could tell you, but it's just unbelievable. Staff turnover rate. How often does staff turn over? Do staff actually show up? Is mom going to be there and it's supposed to be 3 caregivers at night and all of a sudden there's only 1? That's kind of a big deal. Training requirements, right? What are the training requirements? Are they just hiring a warm body to be there? Are they just hiring somebody to, basically off the street that loves people, but they're not trained? So I would venture to say most communities don't do that, but I would see that some, on occasion will be in a pickle and they don't have their staff ratio in accordance with what they need to have. And so they begin to hire somebody that just loves people, and then they can train them along the way. I'm not directly opposed to that as long as they're supervised with people that know what they're doing, because you don't want your mom or dad in the middle of the night needing care and then someone doesn't really know what to do. They're just kind of showing up. Like, you wouldn't want me to do it. I mean, I wouldn't know a whole lot. I mean, I've observed a lot, probably know more today than I ever known in my whole life, but I wouldn't know necessarily how to, let's say you're 280 pounds, bedridden, I need to get you on the Hoyer lift and get you up and get you. I've never done that. I've seen it, but it's one thing to see it and it's one thing to do it, right? I've seen people work on my car, but you don't want me working on your car. I've seen people do certain things, like maybe do some plumbing issues in my house, but you don't want me to be doing something like that, right? So the 4th thing, Brittany, I want to talk about today is loneliness is often the biggest risk. And this is where, again, going back to that conversation, those thoughts you're having possibly about mom or dad needing to move, I mean, this is what you're going to face. If you wait too long, seniors oftentimes face depression, cognitive decline, poor nutrition. These are things that they face all the time. Depression. Why depression? Because family are no longer there. I remember, gosh, I think back now, I feel bad now, but my mom's side, my dad's side of the parents, we visited all the time. It's kind of a ritual thing we did every week, have breakfast on Sunday and all that. But my mom's side of the family, man, when I only visit them now, I'm thinking probably just a couple of major holidays, and this is her grandson that she sees twice a year, maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, short period of time. And then when grandpa passed away and it was just her, now she's in her place all by herself. Then you start talking about cognitive decline, poor nutrition. They just don't eat correctly, right? I've noticed even in my own life, I've got to be disciplined to eat certain things that I need to eat. Fortunately, I've got a great wife who knows how to cook very well, who knows what I need to eat. Thank goodness, thank God, because if that wasn't in place, I'd probably be doing the worst things in the world. Let me tell you a real quick story, Brittany. When I was single, I was living in an apartment, and I didn't know how to cook, still don't know how to cook that well. And what I did, and this is bad, so if you're listening to this right now, don't ever do this, but part of my diet was twice a week. So probably like Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. I'd eat 4 hot dogs on Tuesday, 4 hot dogs on Thursday. Bad, right? I wonder what my cholesterol level went through the roof, right? So I do that, and then I figure, okay, I just eat out on Friday and Saturday, but my diet was terrible back then. So years later now, 15 years or plus years later, I'm eating better today than I ever have. And thank goodness for my wife doing all that stuff for me and knowing how to cook and, have a proper diet. But I'm telling you, seniors, they lose track of those kind of things. They just do because they get into that level of depression and everything else. Community life changes everything. If mom or dad could get into the right community, that's the perfect fit for them, right? Based on care levels, based on their personality type, based on how active they are. Don't try to pigeonhole your loved one into a community that you would like to be at. Really assess your mom or dad. And again, I'm not talking about assessment like you're a physician. Maybe you are out there, but I'm not. I can't really assess that way medically. I'm not qualified to do that. But you know your mom or dad and what they like, their preferences, and look for those kind of things, right? Because Brittany, if they can get into a good community, man, there's friendships, there's structured activities, emotional support, they won't be as depressed as much. Cognitive decline may continue. I don't know. Poor nutrition will probably be solved in a really good community. I mean, I know some communities that, man, serve the best meals on planet Earth. I know some communities that chinch on that thing and they get cold cereal in the morning, cold sandwich in the afternoon, cold sandwich for evening, and they're really cutting back the budget of the food. Learn those type of things. Think about yourself being in a senior living community or being anywhere. How do you want to be treated? Let's get your mom or dad to a place that is how they're treated. Like you mentioned about the opening the doors to families and things like that. Now, not all communities are going to do that, but that might be important to you. That would be important to me. I'm telling you, that almost be ready to do the deal. I'd walk in, open the doors for me. Where do I sign? Let's go. But I mean, obviously a little bit deeper than that. But Brittany, kind of wrap it up with a bow here. Your closing thoughts on the importance of families contacting a senior placement advisor, and talk a little bit about the Senior Placement Institute and what we can do to help others if they want to get in this industry.
Yeah, I think we've seen, me and you, Matt, over and over again, a lot of our students, that these families, again, have so much guilt, pressure, stress on them to make a decision whether they can plan or it is crisis mode. And there's so much differentiating things in senior living. It's going to keep growing. There's going to be different stuff. We've seen new buildings come up with different kinds of programs and all of that good stuff. So I do think it's really important for families to find someone that can break all this down for them, save them, like we always say, hours of time, stress, and even money. So I really do think it's an amazing service. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I think it's great. And then as far as the Senior Placement Institute, everything we covered today, we teach senior placement agents or people that are becoming senior placement agents to be able to dictate and determine everything we just talked about. How do you find out staffing ratios? How do you understand what level of care they can provide, what the depth of the activities are, making sure places aren't just putting on a show for families. Like, that is what your entire job is, to be an advocate. So we teach you how to do that all the way really deep, all the way to the care and the care that they can provide. So that is what we do in the Senior Placement Institute. So you can be competent to give the right advice to families.
Amen. Amen. Way to go, Brittany. Well, hey, hope you enjoyed this, guys. If you did, click the subscribe button down below, like the video. And if you want to talk to one of us here, you can also click a link down below and schedule a consultation call. Until next time, God bless.